Anna, more instability in financial markets, also wild swings in crude prices, and of course the standoff between China and the United States, the biggest economies in the world, creating a lot of uncertainty. How concerned should we be with neither side at this point backing down?
Thanks for having me, Asieh. And I think we should be very concerned. And I also think that there's no reason to expect that the Chinese side will back down, because from Beijing's perspective, this was not initiated by China. It was initiated by Washington, by the Trump administration. And there's been an escalation every time that Beijing has tried to respond in kind to Washington's provocations. So, to the extent that those provocations are still coming, and they do still seem to be coming, at least in terms of targeting China, I think there's reason to worry.
Beijing has already said it's not going to back down. They've repeatedly said pressuring, threatening, and blackmailing Beijing is not going to work. I'm trying to understand how this administration is viewing their strategy, if you will, with China. It seems mind-boggling, at least from the Democratic perspective or the perspective of many of critics of Donald Trump, that imposing record tariffs on the second biggest economy in the world and then demanding that they should not respond with their own retaliatory measures just doesn't add up.
No, it really doesn't. And in terms of trying to, deliver a stronger economy for Americans, it also doesn't add up, since so many of the things that are, necessary household items, regular purchases for American households have supply chains that run through China.
So when do you think American consumers are going to see the impact? I mean, if you're looking for a new iPhone, is now the time to purchase that new iPhone?
Oh, definitely, Asieh. I actually told a woman on the plane next to me that very thing the other day, because she said she had been considering getting a new one. I think basically as inventory that is currently in stores begins to run out, that's when we are going to see the effects of these tariffs, because the new goods that are coming in are the ones that will be affected by it. I mean, we may see some price adjustments even before that, but certainly within the next few weeks.
So, Anna, where do you see the off-ramp here? If the Trump administration came to you and asked for words of wisdom or advice on how to move forward when it comes with these trade tariff actions, war, if you will, especially when it comes to dealing with China. I mean, the economies of these two countries are so interconnected. What happens between these two countries affects the entire world.
It absolutely does. And so there is a joint responsibility here. And frankly, I don't feel like the United States is meeting its side of that responsibility right now. I think that when the Trump administration came back into office in January, there was a sense in Beijing that this still could be a relationship that that the two leaders could manage in a semi-productive way, at least. And I think that possibility remains, even if it has been weakened. But the Trump administration will have to give openings for the Chinese leadership to engage in a meaningful dialogue about this now. There's no way, in my mind, that Chinese leadership comes to the table because of threats. I think that they should be taken at their word on that. And so, whether that's an invitation to invest or something else, there will have to be a more positive opening and not just bullying.
And do you get the sense, Anna, what Donald Trump's end game here is? I mean, I remember the days when the big focus was on fentanyl, then it switched to creating jobs, then it switched to bringing manufacturing to the United States, then it switched to unfair trading practices. And is there any evidence, by the way, that tariffs, the way Donald Trump is doing them, reduces trade imbalances?
These are all very good questions. And I think the bottom line is that Trump campaigned in part talking about how how good a thing tariffs are and how easy it is to win trade wars. And he definitely seems to have a deep conviction that tariffs will help balance bilateral trade relationships and that a balanced trade relationship is better. So I think part of the end game is that for him. He wants to see a more balanced bilateral trade relationship with each and every one of the United States trading partners. But I also think that something to watch closely is these brewing legal challenges to the way that these tariffs were imposed, the president's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, because it's never been used before to impose tariffs, and there are real constitutional questions about whether or not that should even be allowed. And there is at least one case that's already been filed by a conservative legal group that is partially funded by the very same person from the Federalist Society who helped advise Trump on appointments to the Supreme Court. So it's probably been filed in a jurisdiction that they've thought about. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we shall see what happens indeed. Anna Ashton, thank you.